Hey guys, Murphy's Laser here. This is a video response to AlintheaYoh's creativity video in Yu-Gi-Oh! He basically mentions how in the old days it was kind of like no archetypes and just a bunch of random cards in a deck, which is pretty much true. That's from when I'm from, basically. It slowly started becoming archetypes as the game progressed, and you would see one card released in a set, and then another card, and then they finally went together. But now we live in an age where there's maybe 3 or 4 archetypes per set, and you expect it, or a bunch of archetypes support for an archetype that already exists. As far as creativity goes in the game, I feel like it has evolved, but in I guess the way that we think of creativity isn't completely gone. Um, Unfortunately, there's something called a tier list that exists, and every format the tier lists change. Because of this, the tier list kind of dictates how creative people get to be, and if you take the tier list as word of God, basically like nothing can go against it, nothing can make it false until somebody performs well with something that isn't on the tier list or whatever. It's finite basically. That the tier list is all knowing pretty much, and that's unfortunate because that's what stifles creativity is believing that something is uh, is the end basically. When you see a tier list, you go, okay, there's tier 1, there's tier 2, and usually tier 3 is where the creative decks, I guess, live. And I don't think that's true. I think you can be creative with a tier 1 deck. You can be creative with any of the decks. You can come up with a deck that isn't even on the tier list and beat them all. And those are usually called rogue decks. But what I'm saying is basically that people don't take that chance. People don't like to take that chance because they'll get maybe ridiculed by their friends or peers or whatever. So it's difficult to take the steps in being creative when negativity in the community exists, essentially. And that's something I wish that we could do away with. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. And people want to see results, essentially, and because of the tier list produces results. So yeah, I think that creativity gets just stifled by tier lists, not so much by archetypes. Archetypes do kind of lend themselves towards creating the tier lists. I think that Konami knows this. Konami knows that people will gravitate towards playing a certain tier, etc. There's all sorts of factors you got to take into consideration, but basically, I think it all boils down to the fact that there is a tier list at all. Yeah, so there are crazy cards that exist and crazy decks that exist that nobody really likes to play because nobody likes to play them because they're so low in the tier or not on the tiers at all. And I think if people took the chance or took a couple steps and just went, let me play this deck, let me play test, let me play against the top tier decks and see what I can build. Let me see how effective this is. Let me see how consistent this is. And we're actually brave enough to play their own decks, then I think we'd probably have a more fun game. But you never know. You can't really fight against what is established most of the time. Being the minority in a popular majority is usually very difficult. Yeah, so I think creativity is still alive in the game, even whether it be something as small as teching in a card in a meta deck that nobody ever plays. Like teching in a card and somebody sees it and go, why would you play that in that deck? And then you win, and they're like, oh wow, that card was really good. Or going on the other end of the spectrum and playing something completely different, and and catching people by surprise, I guess. And so yeah, so I've always been a big fan of creativity in this game, and it's one of the major reasons I really don't like to go to big events, because I don't like to have to choose tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and it's just difficult to kind of like to force myself to play something I'm not familiar with or really comfortable playing. Like if I had to choose between Bujin, whatever spell books or Sylvans or whatever Fire Fist, I really wouldn't want to play any of them. I'm not really used to playing any of those decks. I don't like that kind of stuff. But also I'm not really used to playing against them either, so that's something I would have to learn in order to play. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think. How creativity is kind of frowned upon in this game. If you feel that creativity is dead, and or what your opinion on creativity is in Yu-Gi-Oh. And don't forget to check out AlintheaYoh's video. It will be in the description, and there was an annotation at the beginning of the video. So there you go. Hit the like, subscribe, and see when I put in videos. And thanks for watching.